I love the Smiths.
Sorry?
I said I love the Smiths. To die by your side is such a heavenly way to die. I love them.
When we think of movies that explore the messiness of modern relationships and complicated, sometimes even toxic couple dynamics, 500 Days of Summer stands out for its unfiltered portrayal of how love often falls short of the idealized versions we expect. From the very first moments of the movie, the viewer is warned that what they're about to witness is not a love story. The proof? The opening is quite literally a breakup. And yet, both Tom and the audience spend the next 90 minutes pretending this might somehow have a happy ending. But while the story begins with boy meets girl, it never promises us anything more than that. What we get instead is something a lot messier, a story about misreading connections and the fallout that comes when illusions and fantasy finally collide with reality.
What happens if you fall in love?
There's no such thing as love, it's fantasy.
Well, I think you're wrong.
Okay, well, what is it that I'm missing then?
I think you know when you feel it.
When it comes to Tom, he is the quintessential hopeless romantic, convinced that his one true love is out there waiting for him to come and find her. We see this clearly on day 28 at the karaoke bar, when Tom expresses to Summer that love is not some fantastical myth, but that it is something real, something tangible, and something that he truly believes in. This view is further emphasized by the narration, which reveals that Tom grew up believing that he will never be happy until he met the one. This belief, the narrator points out, did not emerge from him ever experiencing such a relationship with someone before, but was instead shaped by pop culture.
This belief stemmed from early exposure to sad British pop music and a total misreading of the movie, The Graduate.
For reference, The Graduate is a classic 1967 film known for its rather ambiguous ending. It follows the story of Benjamin, who, uncertain of his future prospects after graduating college, begins an affair with an older woman, Mrs. Robinson. This is further complicated by Benjamin's feelings for Mrs. Robinson's daughter, Elaine. The movie ends with Benjamin interrupting Elaine's wedding and the two of them running away together. However, as they're sitting together in the bus, they seem somewhat uncertain of their decision, as a mix of excitement, regret, and slight panic can be read on their faces. This ending for most people may indicate that love is, as it is in real life, complex and often far from the classic fairy tale. Despite this ambiguity, Tom, being rather young when he first watched that movie, interprets Benjamin and Elaine's story as further proof that true love does indeed exist and can overcome all obstacles. This positive interpretation of the movie is one that Tom maintains even as he grows older, revealing how different he and Summer fundamentally are. When watching The Graduate together, Summer is seen sobbing, seemingly devastated by the deeper and sadder meaning of the movie. Meanwhile, Tom seems rather confused by her reaction, as to him, it's a happy if not romantic ending. The scene perfectly encapsulates just how differently the two of them view love, serving as an additional warning to them and the viewer as to their own ending. Despite finding him to be a bit delusional, I do believe that Tom is quite relatable at that point in the movie. In general, many viewers might see themselves in his idealism and his strong belief in love and fate. At some point, many of us have been a Tom, raised on stories that taught us to long for the quote-unquote one. From a young age, we're told through Disney movies to wait for our perfect other half. Later, we move on to dramatic breakup playlists because of our first real heartbreak. These songs and movies groom us to believe that love must be overwhelmingly all-consuming, passionate, and expressed in grand gestures. So when Tom falls hard and holds on tight, we empathize, not necessarily because he's right, but because he's familiar. But with those beliefs also come several issues. When someone views love the way Tom does, as something that must be found and held on to at all cost, it creates pressure, not just on him, but on whoever he sets his sights on, which brings us to Summer Finn. The first thing we're told about Summer is that her parents are divorced and her view of love and relationships seems to have been greatly impacted by that early disruption.
Since the disintegration of her parents' marriage, she'd only loved two things. The first was her long dark hair. The second was how easily she could cut it off and feel nothing.
Moreover, everything about Summer positions her as something larger than life. So despite being described as completely average when it comes to her height, weight, and shoe size, Summer Finn is in fact not just another girl, at least not for Tom. She's not doing anything magical, she's just existing, but for someone like Tom, who already believes in science and destiny in the quote-unquote one, Summer becomes the girl, not because she is, but because he needs her to be.
It was a rare quality, this summer effect. For Tom Hansen to find it now in a city of 400,000 offices and 3.8 million people, well, that could only be explained by one thing: fate.
Tom is portrayed as someone who falls in love rather fast, something his friends point out throughout the movie when trying to reel in his rapid infatuation, if not obsession, with Summer.
I love how she makes me feel. Like anything's possible. Like, I don't know, like life is worth it.
This is not good.
This is seemingly a pattern as observed when Summer ends things with him, and his friends immediately tell his sister it's Amanda Heller all over again.
We know who else to call. It's Amanda Heller all over again.
Thus, Summer, and later on Autumn, are not isolated cases, as Tom clearly has a habit of forming intense emotional attachments way too fast. This is often done by projecting an idealized, romanticized version of the women he meets. These fanciful ideations rarely reflect the true nature or intentions of the other person, leading Tom to an inevitable self-inflicted disappointment when reality fails to meet his fantasies. When he first meets Summer on my best friend's birthday, January 8, the narrative reveals that upon seeing her in that meeting room, he immediately knows that she was what he has been searching for all these years, the soulmate waiting to be found. That initial spark only grows stronger over time. On day 4, the two protagonists meet in the now infamous elevator scene where they bond over their love of the Smiths.
I said I love the Smiths. You've good taste in music.
Like the Smiths.
Yeah.
Additionally, a week later, we see Tom still gushing about his similarities with Summer to his sister Rachel.
She likes Magritte and Hopper. And we talked about banana fish for like 20 minutes. We're so compatible, it's insane.
Just because some cute girl likes the same bizarro crap you do, that doesn't make her your soulmate, Tom.
What do you mean?
I do think that his mention of Magritte is especially interesting, given that we later see a nod to the French artist in Summer's apartment. When Tom visits Summer's apartment for the first time, her space seems to reflect and even reinforce the way he's already been seeing her in his mind. On her coffee table sits a book on the French painter Paul Cézanne, alongside a hat topped with a green apple, an unmistakable nod to René Magritte's Le Fils de l'Homme. In this context, the image becomes more than a clever reference. It encapsulates Summer herself as someone Tom is constantly trying to decipher, someone whose emotional interior seems just out of reach. The narrator even notes that by inviting him into her apartment, Summer is slowly lowering the walls she typically hides behind.
For Tom Hansen, this was the night where everything changed. That wall Summer so often hid behind, a wall of distance, of space, of casual, was slowly coming down.
For Tom, this act becomes charged with meaning. He believes that she's letting him into her world, one that few get to see, reinforcing Tom's conviction that he is special.
I've never told anybody that before.
I guess I'm not just anybody.
Yet, Tom never stops to ask whether Summer's apparent vulnerability is truly intimacy or simply a gesture of openness that doesn't carry the romantic weight he assigns it. Even though their story just began, he's already putting Summer on a pedestal and nominating her as his true love after a mere 11 days of knowing her, and perhaps having had no more than 3 conversations with the girl. By day 28, Tom's fantasy about Summer seems reignited when he learns that she asked about whether he would attend a karaoke night.
Hi. They said you weren't coming.
You asked if I was...
This detail, though a proof of Summer's nascent interest or at least intrigue for Tom, sparks hope in him. However, as the evening unfolds, Tom, whose favorite color must be red, ignores all the flags raised in his conversations with Summer and Mackenzie. And I see them as red flags not because either of them is wrong, but because there's such a wide gap between their views on love. This moment also lays the foundation for why so many people, myself included, side more so with Summer than Tom.
So you have a boyfriend?
No.
Come on, I don't believe that.
You don't believe that a woman could enjoy being free and independent?
When Summer tells Mackenzie that she does not have a boyfriend and does not intend to have one anytime soon, the two men seem completely stunned by that notion.
I don't actually feel comfortable being anyone's anything, you know. Let me break it down for you. I like being on my own. Relationships are messy and people's feelings get hurt. Who needs it?
Summer's desire to not be anyone's anything, a position she clearly states while glancing at Tom, warning him, is generally so foreign to these two men, not only because they do not believe that to be a possibility, but also because they, or at least Mackenzie, did not expect that coming from a woman. Here, Summer is very much so portrayed as the stereotypical, emotionally distant straight man, while Tom is cast in the more emotional, yearning role often given to straight women in rom-coms of the time. This reversal not only comes as a surprise to Mackenzie, who, if I'm not mistaken, states, "Oh my god, she's a dude," but also to Tom. Indeed, he, still not ready to accept her stance, asks her about love. Both Summer and Tom fail to respect each other's comfort zone and desires when it comes to love and relationships later on, instead focusing on their own convictions, hoping the other will get attuned to them, a naive, if not toxic mindset, which eventually breaks them apart. And in spite of all these roadblocks, they do end up beginning their excruciatingly painful situationship 3 days later when they share a kiss in the copy room, ignoring all the signs telling them that they are indeed not meant to be together. While they initially appear to be matching each other's energy and humor, Tom gradually grows more comfortable and, in turn, more insistent, pushing against Summer's clearly stated limits. This shift causes her to slowly distance herself, whether because of a simple mismatch in expectations, or perhaps, as one of you guys pointed out to me, due to a deeper, more personal disconnection, such as an aromantic-coded disinterest in traditional romantic relationships. We see this deterioration of their relationship through their IKEA dates on day 34, where they seem completely in sync, contrasted with the borderline uncomfortable outing on day 282.
Hon, our sink is broken. All of our sinks are broken.
sink's broken.
At that point, it's obvious they're attracted to one another and genuinely eager to connect. Despite this mutual infatuation, or at least curiosity on Summer's part, she remains honest with Tom, telling him that she's not looking for anything serious.
I'm not really looking for anything serious. Because some people kind of freak out when they hear that.
No, not me.
For sure?
Yeah, like, casual. Right? Take it slow.
Before taking things further physically, she makes sure to ask him if he's truly okay with that. And once again, Tom, whether delusional, a coward, or simply a hopeless romantic, depending on the viewer's read, says yes, even though he's obviously disappointed. Something important to note with Tom's response, however, is that he seems to not truly believe Summer, perhaps believing that he is different from the rest and can sway her. This can be inferred when Summer acknowledges that her choices and boundaries often pushes others away, as they do prefer having labels, and Tom, ever the people pleaser, is seen once again reassuring her, and maybe himself, by reiterating casual before adding take it slow. This last portion of his response, in my view, showcases the bit of hope Tom has that if he indeed does not rush things with her and quote-unquote takes it slow, her desire for him may leave the realm of casual. This need to be the exception to Summer's rule remains with Tom throughout the relationship. Furthermore, we also see that Tom's work performance is greatly contingent upon his standing with Summer. When the relationship is on a high, around day 167 for instance, Tom seems to perform very well at his job as he is in a great mood and uses his affection for Summer as inspiration for the cards he writes.
We've been stuck on this for an hour.
How about I love us?
Conversely, when they are no longer quote-unquote together, Tom's abysmal performance at the office lands him in a meeting with his boss Vance, who very obviously noticed a change in his demeanor since Summer's departure.
Has something happened to you recently? Look, I don't mean to pry, but does this have something to do with Summer leaving?
Who?
Tom, everyone knows.
Vance even reads one of his most recent cards to show him how underwhelming his work has been.
The reason I'm asking is lately your work performance has been a little off. Here's something that you wrote last week. Roses are red, violets are blue, fuck you, whore.
Though I can sympathize with him, as getting over an ex must not be easy, especially when the relationship was as complicated as his with Summer, I still think it's pretty crazy that he went as far as to call her a whore in one of his work projects. And this is not to say that Summer is to blame for Tom's lackluster work performance, but rather demonstrates how Tom's view of love not only indeed causes tensions in his relationship with Summer as he keeps frankly disrespecting her boundaries, but also greatly affects his own emotional regulation and work performance. It's in part because of this emotional fallout and how disproportionate his reactions become that it feels necessary to look more closely at Summer herself. Summer's apparent aversion for labels and serious relationships can be interpreted in two ways. The first is that Summer herself is unsure of what she wants. Her behavior throughout the relationship often oscillates between affection and distance, initiating intimacy in one moment, insisting on friendship the next.
We're just...
What? We're just what?
We're just...
No, don't pull that with me. This is not how you treat your friend.
This inconsistency could reflect a deeper uncertainty where she's drawn to Tom's companionship but genuinely is unsure about whether that connection can translate into romantic love. In that reading, she's not stringing him along out of malice, but because she's conflicted, caught between comfort and the fear of committing to something that doesn't feel quite right. The second, a perspective that was voiced to me by one of you guys, is that Summer may be on the aromantic spectrum, hence her refusal to be in a relationship. The bar fight on day 259 is, I think, a crucial moment in understanding how the boundaries between them get reset, though never clearly or successfully. The scene opens with Tom thinking he's Miranda Presley judging another bargoer's outfit, all while wearing a zip-up hoodie over a dress shirt and tie.
1964. Those girls knew how to dress. Nowadays, it's all these giant sunglasses, tattoos, handbags with little dogs in them. Who okayed this?
Some people like it.
Summer is visibly bothered by his unnecessary mocking of the stranger's outfit, not only because it's mean-spirited, but also because his backhanded compliment comes at someone else's expense as it reads less like affection and more like an attempt to get Summer's reaction.
I like how you dress.
I was thinking about getting a butterfly tattoo about yay big on my ankle.
No.
The tension between them escalates when a random guy at the bar starts hitting on Summer and becomes increasingly insistent.
So let me buy you a drink.
No, thank you.
So come on, one drink. What are you drinking?
I said no thanks.
You're serious. This guy.
Don't be rude. I'm flattered, but I'm not interested. So why don't you go over there and leave us alone? Thanks.
Later, when they get to her place and she asks him to leave her apartment, Tom resists.
I can't believe you.
I just got my ass kicked for you.
Okay, well next time, don't, because I don't need your help. Can we talk about this tomorrow?
No. You know what? I'm not going anywhere till you tell me what's going on.
Her reiteration that she likes him but doesn't want a relationship should be enough, but Tom, overwhelmed with emotion, refuses to accept this.
I like you, Tom. I just don't want a relationship.
Well, you're not the only one that gets a say in this. I do too. And I say we're a couple. God damn it.
The truth is, you don't get to vote someone into a relationship. Tom may feel misled, but Summer has been honest about not wanting anything serious from the start. That said, Summer is not faultless. Calling their dynamic a friendship is disingenuous at best. It's very obviously something more than that, and it's confusing at a level neither of them is handling particularly well. But if Tom's flaw is that he's trying to force a relationship on someone who doesn't want one, then Summer's is that she doesn't cut things off when she should. Which brings us to that rainy night when she shows up at his door to apologize. Instead of ending things, they both double down. Tom tells her that they don't need a label, which kills me because everything he's said or done until then proves otherwise.
Look, we don't have to put a label on it. That's fine, I get it, but I need some consistency.
I can't give you that. Nobody can.
And Summer kisses him anyway. They both compromise not with each other, but with reality. And if we return to the aromantic spectrum interpretation, this whole situation takes on another layer. During their initial karaoke night, when Mackenzie asks her about having a boyfriend, Summer replies,
No.
Why not?
Because I don't want one. I just don't feel comfortable being anyone's girlfriend.
If Summer is somewhere on the era A spectrum, then maybe her inability to define what she has with Tom isn't confusion, but rather clarity. Maybe she knows what she wants, affection, companionship, even intimacy, but doesn't experience the same pull towards romantic attachment. When she tells Tom she likes him, she means it. When she kisses him, she's not pretending. But it's just that, liking, not loving, proximity, not partnership. It is instead the acknowledgement that her experiences of love finally aligned with what the world had told her it should feel like. So, in the end, whether you read Summer as confused, emotionally avoidant, or aerospec, one thing remains true. Her experience of love does not match Tom's. And the problem is not that either of them is inherently wrong, but it's instead that they kept trying to make incompatible realities coexist. While I am not a therapist, it seems that after the breakup, Tom is going through something akin to the 5 stages of grief. The first real stage in his post-breakup grief, that is denial, is portrayed best on day 303. As the elevator doors open, Tom looks noticeably disheveled. Summer has quit her job and a new employee has taken her place. Still, he tells his friend that he's working on getting her back.
So did you get her back yet, or what?
Working on it.
Then he receives an email from her implying he reached out first, a clear sign he still believes there's hope. Her message, while polite, once again makes her boundaries clear. That last line confirms that from her side, the relationship was truly meant to be platonic, at least emotionally. His inability to accept her limits reflects a larger problem with how he views love. He sees her apparent mixed signals as signs of hope rather than accepting what she's actually telling him. And by day 344, Tom is somewhere between the remnants of denial and the anger stage. He goes on a blind date with Allison, but he spends the entire night talking about Summer.
I liked this girl. I loved her. She took a giant shit on my face.
He says that on the one hand, he wants to forget about her, but on the other, he knows that she's truly the only person in the universe who will ever make him happy. Emotionally, that kind of logic seems to make sense right after a breakup, especially when someone hasn't had closure. You want to believe that the person who hurt you is also the only one who could save you. And even though Summer never agreed to be his girlfriend, the intensity of their relationship, the intimacy, the shared experiences, make his heartbreak real. Later, he starts listing all the signs he overlooked, but rather than admit to his own denial or misjudgment, he doubles down. He tries to rationalize their breakup by deciding that Summer is either evil, emotionless, miserable, or a robot.
There's 2 options, really. Either she's an evil, emotionless, miserable human being, or she's a robot.
That characterization is not just immature, but also deeply problematic. It echoes the kinds of unjust descriptions often weaponized against aromantic or asexual people who are frequently labeled as cold simply for not reciprocating desire in the same way. Whether or not Summer falls under that category is irrelevant. What matters is that Tom's language reflects his refusal to see her as a full person with different wants and boundaries. He can't accept that her emotional detachment was honest, so he frames it as inhuman. Though his pain is not invalid, his inability to manage it in a healthy way absolutely is. After lingering in denial for weeks, Tom slowly drifts into the second stage of grief, anger. This anger simmers beneath the surface, showing up as bitterness, blame, and a growing resentment towards Summer for not returning his feelings. Day 314 also captures this perfectly as Tom sits alone at the movies. This scene visually isolates him, casting him in an empty, detached atmosphere that mirrors how emotionally detached he feels after the breakup. The film he's watching doesn't just reflect his sadness, it seems to almost narrate his internal state.
Il est brisé, plus que brisé, il est seul. Maintenant, son seul ami est la rancœur.
The word rancœur technically translates to grudge, resentment, or even bitterness rather than grief, which is even more telling. Tom is no longer just sad, he's angry at Summer, angry at how things turned out, and most of all, angry that his romantic ideal didn't come true.
It's these cards, and the movies and the pop songs, they're to blame for all the lies and the heartache, everything.
He feels betrayed not just by her, but by the unfulfilled promise of the fantasy he constructed around her.
I love her smile.
I hate her crooked teeth.
I love her knees.
I hate her knobby knees.
I love the sound of her laugh. I hate the way she sounds when she laughs.
After cycling through bitterness and blame, Tom slips into the next stage of grief, bargaining. This doesn't just manifest as literal pleas or prayers, but rather in his hopeful reinterpretation of every small interaction with Summer as a potential turning point, an opening for things to return to the way they once were, or perhaps become what he always wished them to be. This begins on day 402, when he runs into Summer on a train headed to Millie's wedding. On the train, and later at the wedding, their chemistry seems to make a comeback. When she invites him to a rooftop party at her place, and later falls asleep on his shoulder on the ride home, Tom starts to believe that maybe they're on their way back to each other. He's not necessarily begging for it, but he is somewhat bargaining with fate, in my opinion. But this illusion shatters at the party. Before he even enters the space, the narrator addresses the audience.
Tom walked to her apartment, intoxicated by the promise of the evening. He believed that this time his expectations would align with reality.
But of course, they don't. From the very beginning, there's a palpable mismatch between what he hopes will happen and what actually does. And then he sees it, the ring. At that point, there's no room left for ambiguity. This isn't flirtation or rekindling. It's reality shaking him awake. By the time we reach the final stage, acceptance, Tom doesn't suddenly become joyful or healed. Instead, we witness a gradual re-entry into his routine. Acceptance here is not about forgetting Summer or erasing what happened. It's about stepping outside the fantasy, letting go of what could have been, and beginning to rebuild with a clearer sense of reality. We see Tom slowly start putting himself back together. He is seen updating his architecture portfolio and begins applying for jobs in his actual field. The energy is kind of different now. Not idealistic per se, but grounded and determined. By day 488, right before another interview, Tom is seen returning to his spot overlooking the city. It's on that bench that Summer calls out to him from behind, appearing at the very moment he's beginning to transition into a new chapter of his life.
Hey, Tom. You look sharp.
So do you.
Thanks.
But despite the initial surface level pleasantries, there's tension.
You're married.
Yeah, crazy, huh?
You never wanted to be anybody's girlfriend, and now you're somebody's wife.
It surprised me, too.
She elaborates further, telling him that one morning she woke up and just felt something she had never experienced with him.
It just happened.
What just happened?
I just woke up one day and I knew.
Knew what?
What I was never sure of with you.
To me, this is one of the most painful moments in the movie. Not because I think Summer to be cruel, I don't, but rather because that's just how unfair life is sometimes. Love, after all, isn't something you can manufacture, even if the person in front of you seems perfect on paper. Nor her nor Tom can control the way they feel about each other. By the end of their conversation, Tom and Summer have switched places. While he no longer believes in true love, destiny, and soulmates, Summer admits that his initial view of love was right. Summer finally comes to believe in love because she truly experienced it for the first time after Tom. Meanwhile, he lost faith in it, not because love isn't real, but because his own expectations were completely shattered despite thinking he understood what it meant. This conversation, serving as closure for Tom, marks the end of this chapter with Summer, ushering a new one with a slightly more cynical Tom. On day 500, we see this renewal at work as he meets Autumn. Unlike Summer, it's Autumn who notices Tom first at Angelus Plaza.
Have I seen you before?
Me? I don't think so.
Do you ever go to Angelus Plaza?
But there's also an undeniable sense of déjà vu. It also obviously sparks Tom's interest, as he probably wonders if this previous encounter is not some sort of sign from the universe. But this possible thought is cut short by the narrator, who points out that
Tom had finally learned there are no miracles. Nothing is meant to be. He knew. He was sure of it now. He was pretty sure.
what looks like fate is simply coincidence. Yet, as much as he tries to convince himself that fate doesn't exist, Tom isn't entirely sure. That lingering doubt is what pushes him to take initiative and ask Autumn out for coffee.
I was just wondering if maybe after this, I want to get some coffee or something.
One could see this as growth, as him finally learning to take control rather than waiting for signs. Or it could be interpreted as history repeating itself, another case of Tom projecting meaning onto a chance encounter simply because she noticed him first. This moment sparks day one of Autumn, and visually, the film makes it feel like a fresh start. The transition card is striking, a vivid orange sky, a tree in full bloom, and even the sun making its first appearance, none of which were present on day one with Summer. Maybe this signals something real, something different this time. Maybe Autumn really is the one, but then again, maybe it's just wishful thinking. Believing the cycle will finally lead to the right person might simply mean neither Tom nor the viewer has truly learned the lesson. After all, he shared little moments and similarities with Summer too, so how can we be sure that this isn't just more of the same? In the end, it's tempting to believe Autumn signals a new beginning, the quote-unquote real love story, but to do so might just be falling into the same trap Tom did, and as we were told from the start, this is not a love story.
Well, you know, I guess it's because I was sitting in a deli and a guy comes up to me and now he's my husband. So what if I'd gone to the movies? What if I'd gotten there 10 minutes later? I just kept thinking, Tom was right. It just wasn't me that you were right about.